keeps... Looks like he's probably going to keep this hand on 6. It's pretty hard to mulligan this, but it's threat light. It's just got a bunch of burn spells, and that's not, I think, where you necessarily want to be.
Yeah, I mean, if he faces down something like a Savage Knuckleblade, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, of course, if he can, maybe Magma Jet into a turn 3 Rabble Master, that's a completely different story. And I think he chooses to use Magma Jet here because Jeremy's not going to be playing very many cards that he can Magma Jet at this point. And it's really hard to get away with just doing nothing there.
Yeah, so this list already looks pretty different than a lot of the teamer decks that we've seen, whereas he plays turn 2 Caryatid, which we've generally seen a lot more aggressive, like Heir of the Wilds as the 2-drop of choice, something like Rattleclaw Mystic that can attack freely. But here we see the Sylvan Caryatid, actually.
Yeah, this goes a little bit bigger, maybe. It's got, Pelukros, it's got Surrak Dragonclaw.
Oh, wow.
Savage Knuckleblade, Courser Caryatid, and Rattleclaw Mystic. So just no Elvish Mystic. So it I guess, shares your disdain for that particular card here. And presumably, it's built a mana base that can support that better with, it gets to play 2 Temple of Abandon, 2 Temple of Mystery, and those are luxuries not afforded to decks that are trying to cast Elvish Mystic.
Yeah, of course, you're not going to be able to see the turn 2 Savage Knuckleblade, but you are going to take a lot less pain damage, which is not too bad necessarily.
Yeah, and you're going to have a little bit more consistency overall with Elvish Mystic, or Temples providing, a little bit of mid-game filtering.
This is interesting, is it is actually much more like green-red monsters than any of the... It's not really a teamer deck, it's kind of a green-red monster deck, just splashing Knuckleblade. He also has 1 copy of Teamer Ascendancy in his main deck.
That is nice.
Yeah, to go along with 1 Teamer Charm and 3 Stubborn Denial, so that's all the blue cards we actually see in the main deck.
Yeah, Teamer Charm, Teamer Ascendancy, 3 Stubborn Denials, and then, of course, the Knuckleblades are the only blue cards he's got. So far, it's done well for him, so yeah. Interesting to see how powerful that ends up being in this match. Larry has found his mana. He's got now 4 lands and a blue source, so he can cast his spells, but Corso Crux is really the opposite of what he wanted to see there, because his hand has tons of burn, but right. Corso makes it really hard to burn his opponent out.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is there's so few things in this deck he wants to see here. Like we noted, it is very much a monsters deck, and it is hard to burn out all these creatures with 4 toughness and now 5 toughness. Pelukronos only going to get bigger. The Stoke is going to actually take down the Courser here, but he's got Knuckleblade on top. That thing is going to be able to get haste, should Jeremy want to.
He's got Pelukronos. If Jeremy draws a Stubborn Denial, this deck's going to be really hard to beat this game. Even if he doesn't, I mean, literally Mulligan and is now getting 2 for 1 off, Pelukronos, had to use a Magma Jet for just 2 damage, had to stoke a Courser after, it gained some life. Like, these are not favorable trades, and they keep happening.
And he knows that Knucklerblade's on top, and I can't imagine he has a good response to that either.
No, his last card is going to be Jeskai Charm here, and Jeskai Charm doesn't do a whole lot. It sends Savage Knuckleblade back for a turn, but that's when you're not accomplishing anything, that doesn't matter too much.
Yeah, that guy's got haste, so...
Yeah, and it looks like the Knuckleblades came in for 4. Larry Lee's just going to pass it, and this is where he would want Dig Through Time, but as I remember from covering him earlier, Dig Through Time is not a card he's playing a ton of. He's got just the 2, which is a reasonable amount, but I'm used to the full 4 that some people have played in this tournament.
So the Stormbreath Dragon comes down. Interesting decision last turn to go with the Knuckleblade over the Stormbreath. Not sure exactly.
Maybe he's trying to draw to stoke the flames, and because the dragon is resistant to cards like Jeskai Charm.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, Larry didn't have an answer to either. It looks like he did draw a Dig Through Time, though. That's got to be the best card he could draw, because that actually leads to him potentially winning the game here. Like, if he finds a bunch of answers. Or at least not dying. Maybe winning is too strong a word.
Yeah, he's only going to have 3 lands in play, and he's going to be facing 8 damage haste, kind of at a minimum. If Jeremy has an untapped land, he can play the Knuckleblade, give it haste, and give it +2/+2. So, yeah, he's under the gun, that's for sure.
He hit 7 spells off Dig Through Time, but they're all Hordling Outbursts and Secret of the Way.
Yeah, none of them are good.
And he can't cast the Mana Strider this turn because Dig costs blue. So, I guess Hordling Outburst is probably going to be one of the cards just because it blocks Knuckleblade for 3 turns.
And just because there's many copies of it.
Yeah, but I don't know what the other one wants to be. Could be Secret, could be Mana Strider to try to set up an attack later, but it's going to be pretty tough because Larry's got no direct answer to Stormbreath Dragon, and this is already taking into account that he's chumping Knuckleblade every turn.
Yeah, that is a true statement. Also, if Jeremy just has that land, the Dragon Co. Monstrous, and with these extra cards with Dig Through Time, You know, that's a lot of damage, and he's not going to be able to burn it out. He just doesn't have any burn spells even in his hand.
Yeah,
So
Stoke the Flames would have been a good
finish
card
it
to
off.
find, but hopefully Jeremy draws something pretty good this turn. Oh, he did. It was a Knuckle Blade.
So lucky.
So Jeremy doesn't have an untapped land, so he can attack with Dragon, but he couldn't Monstrous it. Looks like he's going to slam and then maybe play Ashcloud Phoenix here because he's just the Hordling Outburst has disincentivized him from playing ground creatures. And game one, I would not worry about end hostilities. Also, they have deck lists, so he can play Rattleclaw Mystic or Sylvan Caryatid without much fear.
Yeah, hopefully none. I mean, I kind of hope Larry does not cast 10 hostilities right here.
It would be funny, but yes, it would not be great. So Larry's facing lethal attackers, unless he kept Magma Jet off Dig Through Time, which it looks like he did. He can Magma Jet face down the Phoenix, though it can just come face up next turn.
Yeah, the Phoenix, that's not really the effective solution against already having 6 mana in play. He does open up the door to failure to reveal Morph, which is unfortunate, but is a reality in our current world.
That is one of his outs. Oh, the Crater's Claws for the rub-ins.
Yeah. Well, looks like he's going down that path.
And this seems a little safer than trying to flip up Phoenix, though both of them actually work. Well, flip up Phoenix and attack, though I guess you could also just flip up Phoenix and just trigger it. So
Yeah.
Though actually, Jeremy, as I discussed with Ben, can't get a
forget to reveal his Morph.
Well, you can't get a game loss for that because it's a Phoenix. It's known information. Both players know it, which is I think why he didn't even reveal it.
Well then.
So there we go. So luckily Larry has more dig through times in his sideboard, so he can solve the problem he had in game one, which is not having enough dig through times. He does
We're gonna do a live look in first.
He does have a Font of Fortune. So we're gonna go ahead and take a live look in at the matchup of Angel Solake versus Albert Ake, the CDC whip deck against Obzon midrange.
Of course, the first thing you see. I guess it's probably a vampire token with a Sorin in the graveyard, although.
And there's a bunch of Hornets here, so this looks pretty good for the whip deck. Albert looks like he just whipped back a Hornet Queen, is attacking with a Hasted Hornet Queen, a zombie token, a CDT, making another zombie token, and the vampire token from Sorin is going to be potentially blocking, not even blocking this turn, which leads Albert to gain 7 more life and deal 7 damage. So this is where the whip deck wants to be.
Yeah, I mean, it has its namesake in play and its other namesake in play. It has Sidisi and Whip. They're both on the battlefield. They're both doing what they're designed to do. Sidisi fueling the Whip, making a bunch of zombies. All these Hornets left behind from the Hornet Queen, and Angel just doesn't have a board presence, so it would be hard to beat that even, if he had everything he wanted in play. It looks like Albert has a Chord of Calling in his hand.
Yeah.
After making a whole bunch of tokens on his turn. That is pretty sweet.
So what's happening now is Bileblight is targeting a Hornet token, and Albert is going to Murderous Cut his own Hornet token in response to fizzle the Bileblight and save the other 3 tokens.
Yeah, you just cast Murderous Cut as 3 Hornets.
Yeah, 1 black, put 3 Hornets into play. That's a good spell.
Yeah, and it's like Source Splashers.
Yeah, it is kind of like Source Splashers. Source Splashers would have been better there because it would have gained a life, though.
It's true.
And it looks like that's that. I mean, when you're whipping back Hornet Queen and attacking with CDC, you're usually in pretty good shape.
Yeah, facing down no clock. The only time you're in bad shape is when they have a character and then they cast Jeskai Ascendancy.
Yeah. And it looks like Larry sided into a control deck here, because look, as he peels through his sideboard there, it's got a bunch of Secret of the Ways, Hordling Outbursts, maybe Mantis Riders in his sideboard.
So it looks like his dig through time from the game.
Yeah. So it looks like he sided in, presumably Narset, Enlightened Master, Karanos, Dig Through Time, Font of Fortunes, Disdainful Stroke, potentially against Stormbreath and Ashcloud Phoenix, and then end hostilities. Maybe even Anger of the Gods, because it does wipe the Phoenix and any Caryatids away.
Yeah, I mean, just going the full blue-white control. I mean, he's in that good position of knowing exactly what he's up against. Sometimes it's tough, as we see in so many different flavors of green-red monsters, green-red-blue monsters, just mono-green devotion that kind of looks like monsters. All these decks, which are similar but yet kind of wildly different in how good a card like Anger of the Gods is going to be against them. So actually having access to the deck list, having that quote-unquote perfect information to know what you're up against really helps to figure out where you want to be after sideboard and to make the the best judgment call that you can.
Yeah, and I find it even funny that literally actually has one copy of Reprisal on the sideboard also.
Yeah,
and that's a sweet one. It does kill Savage Knuckleblade. Not as good about killing Stormbreath. And yeah, it looks like they are talking about it that since Frye didn't reveal his morph, but because it was known information, he just got a warning for it.
Sure.
Which is, again, what I had confirmed before the tournament, just because I was curious about what would happen in that situation.
Yeah, interesting. So we learn something new every day.
Yeah. But not the identity of the morph, though.
It could have been anything.
Yeah. Actually, we learned.
What do you think it was?
I think it was an Ashcloud Phoenix. That'd be my guess.
It's so likely.
Yeah. So, Jeremy Frye, I don't think has options to have as drastic of a sideboard plan. I mean, he's got Disdainful Stroke. He's got Stubborn Denial. Stubborn Denial is one of the reasons I don't like necessarily siding into Control, because that card's so punishing against a card like End Hostilities.
You're right.
When you go Savage Knuckleblade and they slam End Hostilities and you just pay 1 mana to counter it, that's a beating.
Yeah, the Stubborn Denial is, I think, Savage Knuckleblade is the number one reason to splash blue and go Temur in your green-red monster deck, but Stubborn Denial is not far behind. That card is extremely powerful. And Disdainful Stroke, similar logic. I mean, you're trading up so dramatically, and the tempo advantage that you gain. I don't think necessarily your cards are as powerful in a vacuum as some of the other colors, but the combination, the synergy of being able to trigger Ferocious to make Stubborn Denial from a card that is effectively a Force Spike, Daze, Mana Tithe, whatever you want to call it, not a huge impact into just an absolute powerhouse, like you said. Just being a hard counter for something like End Hostilities that would have wiped your board. It's a dramatic shift.
Yeah, and when your opponent's starting in cards like Dig Through Time and you're starting in Disdainful Stroke and going up to 4 Stubborn Denial, I mean, that does end up being on the advantage of the person with the cheaper counters, especially since his threats are still pretty cheap.
Yeah, and the advantage is not small.
Literally, of course, could side back in, like, let's say he wins this game on the control roll, he could side back into aggro. Though, being on the play, I kind of like the aggressive starts being on the play, maybe the control deck on the draw. But he doesn't have that luxury right now. I mean, he's on the play, and he's got to win a game to make it to being on the draw. And it does look like the control deck. He's got Dig, Disdainful Stroke, Lightning Strike, and Lands. Which is a fine hand.
Yeah, how is Lightning Strike in this match? It doesn't seem like it does too much.
It doesn't do a whole lot. It kills Rattleclaw Mystic, and it flips down an Ashcloud Phoenix. So actually, Lightning Strike seems like it's one of the underperformers. I might prefer just to have something like Mana Strider in my deck, even if you don't think Mana Strider is like the way you're going to win a lot of the games.
Right. And I'm assuming that his copies of Magma Jet are still in the deck, all of them, if he has Lightning Strike, because I'm fairly sure every copy of Magma Jet is quite a bit better than Lightning Strike. Just the ability to scry, especially if you're in the control deck, is going to be more useful than Lightning Strike. Of course, being able to deal 3 to the face is a thing, combining burn spells is a thing, but it's just not as good as the scry ability, I think, in a matchup where it can't actually kill anything, and he can look at the deck list and see that there's nothing with exactly 3 toughness in it. Yeah,
and if that's the case, it's possible that you just wouldn't want either in your deck. It seems like
right.
They're not. If you want one though, it would be Magma Jet.
Right. My point being, we've already seen the Lightning Strike, which makes me assume that all the Magma Jets are in the deck. Not that I'm sure that you want either one.
I like leading with Mystic Monastery here, since you can play Temple of Triumph later. Like, I think I'd rather see an extra card to see what kind of information I have here.
Yeah, I mean, he's not playing a deck. I guess you wouldn't be playing Temple of Triumph if you had actual cards to, like, nullify. Your counterspells are going to be something like Disdainful Stroke, which can't be cast this early anyway. So he doesn't really have any 2-drops. I think, like you said, the Seekers are out of the deck, so no real reason to scry on turn 1. It's not like you're actually trying to hit anything immediately. Might as well let your hand shape out a little bit, know exactly what you need. You're going to have the mana that you need to cast the spells anyway. So, yeah, there's no reason to lead on that Temple, and it's something that, as you noted, a lot of people do, and yeah.
Yeah, getting a little information out both your draw and your opponent's draw can often be valuable.
Yeah.
Larry drawing Reprisal and Anger of the Gods here, so yeah, like I said, he is the controller. He needs a Keranos. Keranos would be one of the better cards to draw. Can't Stubborn Denial Keranos.
I mean, knowing that you have these cards like Reprisal and Anger of the Gods in your hand now gives you so much more information for a Temple, knowing that maybe I don't need another card like Lightning Strike, whereas if you had no removal, maybe I do.
What I really hope this is from Jeremy Frye's Team Ascendancy. But unfortunately, it's just a Corsair Crew fix.
Sorry.
Larry doesn't have that easy of an answer for Corsair here. Can't get Disdainful Stroke, can't get Lightning Strike, can't get Angered.
Does he already have End Hostilities in his hand, though?
No, he's got Reprisal. Yeah. I mean, let's see, drew End Hostilities at some point slyly. And even though he has Dig Through Time, which is good here, he needs to start casting spells to enable it right now. I mean, he doesn't have good targets. He shouldn't just be wasting the spells, but without spells going to his graveyard, the dig is just getting slower and slower.
So you're saying what you would have done is cast Anger the Gods here?
That's not exactly what I was saying, but yeah. I mean, if Jeremy Frye casts an Ashcloud Phoenix and then Larry can go ahead and Lightning Strike the Corsair and then cast Anger and kill both creatures, that would be a pretty good exchange.
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable. Well, now he has to wait and kill that Caryatid. You don't want to miss up value.
Yeah. So Jeremy playing my Coast off the Caryatid, even though he's got a Temple in hand, just because, it's a free card. And then he's got Sirach Dragonclaw. That's another card that's pretty nice against the deck that sided into a bunch of counters, though Reprisal does deal with it.
Reprisal. Yeah, Reprisal is a real sweet answer to a card that's generally going to be tough to deal with.
And Larry actually hasn't cast a spell yet. He's going to land go for 5 turns, which is not a normal opening in Standard.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you play Jeskai Control. Sometimes you have to sit back. He didn't have a good answer to the Corsair, and now we're just playing the waiting game, seeing if we can ever deploy some of these cards.
Jeremy choosing to play a Frontier Bivouac instead of Temple of Mystery there because he likes the Savage Knuckleblade, does not want it to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Knuckleblade does a pretty good job against Control too, actually. Can't Disdainful Stroke it, and it dodges removal spells.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it plays around even Wraths very well. I mean, it takes a bunch of mana, but it's definitely a thing. Well, we have 6 lands in play, and Dig Through Time's still not active. Hasn't played a single spell.
Yeah, this is a kind of a strange game. Stubborn Denial, a little less effective when you show your opponent the card, but still a pretty good card.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, once the Knuckleblade's in play, it just becomes a hard counter and negate for 1 mana.
It's true. And it turns out Larry, I believe, has an actual negate of his own, but yeah, he's definitely fighting an uphill battle at this point.
You see Jeremy not putting the Stubborn Denial on the bottom, passing without casting Savage Knuckleblade. I wonder what the chances are that he plays Sirach in him turn. It seems like he probably will. Like, yes. Reprisal's not, he knows there's just 1 Reprisal, so right. I don't think playing around it is really a high priority for him.
There is some chance now that he knows that Stubborn Denial's on top of his deck, he's going to have enough mana to cast Sirach and have Stubborn Denial up, that he will decide to just wait the 1 extra turn. Knowing that there's not going to be, obviously the Sirach can't be countered itself, and, there's only the 1 Reprisal, which means that Larry would need to have boarded in negate and have it in his hand, because a card like Disdainful Stroke is not going to do anything against Sirach or Stubborn Denial.
So,
well,
Larry goes with the Rabble Master, Jeremy blocks with the Sylvan Caryatid, then end of turn just plays the Sirach.
I was going to say pretty unlikely he's going to cast the Sirach since he didn't block the Goblin token, but proved me wrong.
He's facing a Swift Reprisal. The Savage Knuckleblade's still going to come out here.
It is. That guy's free to roam. Just chaining denials. Looks like a Phoenix and a Crater's Claw. Lots of high power cards, which is kind of what's going to happen when Corsair of Caryatid is just left unchecked.
Yeah, when you're drawing an extra card every other turn, then you're going to end up with plenty of lands in play and a pretty steady stream of spells too.
Absolutely.
So, pretty likely Knuckleblade comes down. Jeremy could play the Ashcloud Phoenix, but Knuckleblade is such a more resilient threat that I think you'd rather just have that.
Yeah, it looks like he was trying to figure out the best way to tap for that guy.
Jeremy is not scared of that Rabble Master. He doesn't leave anything back to block the Rabble Master. Maybe he's just going to cast Crater's Claws on it. That is certainly a potential play.
I think so. Next turn he's going to be able to have Crater's Claw up with double Stubborn Denial. That should just be lethal because all these goblins have to suicide, or not. They're not going to die, but they can't stay back and block.
If he hits the land, he has Crater's Claws for 8 with 1 Stubborn Denial, but if he gets any attacks through, he then can spend less mana on it and have double Stubborn Denial.
Yep.
That does seem pretty safe. I don't think that he's in drastic need to worry about the Rival Master. He's at 21 life right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it ever becomes a bigger problem, he can just leave his creatures back and they can just eat a whole bunch of goblins should that become where this game heads. Also, the Crater's Claw could take down the Rival Master in future turns.
So, Larry, not a whole lot of options here. I mean, presumably he's going to attack with the Rabble Master as well as the Goblins, unless he's planning on chumping with it. But that leaves a handful of kind of situational counterspells that really haven't had an opportunity to be used at all.
Well, he's going to have something back. I mean, he's facing down lethal damage just on board.
Yeah.
And he knows that his opponent has a Stubborn Denial just ready to go. So if you have to chain 2 burn spells to try to take down either of these creatures, and you know your opponent has Stubborn Denial to take care of, the second guy, like, you're getting 2 for 1 right there, and you still are facing lethal damage. So this Rival Master probably can't attack. I mean, I'm not sure the exact.
I guess it has to just chump the Savage Knuckleblade, which is a tough spot to be in.
Oh, yeah. And if that happens, he's still facing down Crater's Claw with double denial back up. So, not sure how to get out of this one.
Larry taking a look at his options, and again, we know his hand has like Negate, Anger of the Gods, Disdainful Stroke, Dig Through Time, and it's funny that he has like 6 cards in his hand, and his hand doesn't do anything. No. He somehow just has a full grip of cards, and they don't line up well against Jeremy's deck. I feel like post-board Jeremy has really got a huge edge here, just based on the way both players sideboarded. Jeremy just ends up in a better position. His cards just do more for less mana.
Yeah, I mean, the cards that you highlighted, Surrak and Stubborn Denial, just showing how strong they are in this matchup. Each Stubborn Denial basically is digging the dagger deeper and deeper into Larry. Like, how do you get out of it? Like, he's got to stop a fireball and 2 counters.
At this point, you attack with both. You have 2 Stubborn Denials in your hand, and you have a Crater's Claws, which is then going to be lethal for only 5 mana.
Absolutely. Larry's going to fall to 6 here, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, this game has a pretty good odds of just ending on this turn.
Hard to see how it doesn't. I mean, Larry's going to need triple negate, or negate, Disdainful Stroke, and another counter.
Well,
he needs 3 counters.
He can Magma Jet the Savage Knuckleblade in response, which prompts action from Jeremy because he needs it to keep Ferocious
Okay,
up.
so that's basically like a counter spell, which will turn on Disdainful Stroke and negate.
Yeah, so it looks like actually Larry's going to survive this.
Yeah, you're right.
But doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win, but...
Yeah, he's going to have a couple goblins. They don't have to attack anymore.
So I think I would start by just casting Disdainful Stroke to draw out the first Stubborn Denial, and then Negate to draw out the second one, and then Magma Jet the Knuckleblade, because you want the Magma Jet to resolve the most.
Well, the only issue with that is that also means that...
You still take 4.
Yeah, you still take 4.
Yeah, you go to 2, but I think your chances of winning are much higher if you get the Knuckleblade off the board. So this is a kind of interesting stack, actually. Because Larry actually has all the information here. He knows what's going to happen.
Yes, and he knows there's another Knuckleblade coming next turn.
Well, yeah, that's less good news.
Well, he does get to scry too.
Yeah, and now his Dig Through Time is starting to be enabled, so that turn actually worked pretty well for Larry, all told. Having the Magma Jet was pretty crucial there.
And it looks like Jeremy's hand is another Crater's Claw, which is lethal, and an Ashclef Phoenix, which is lethal, and he's got a Knuckleblade on top, which is lethal.
So literally he's not out of the woods yet, but...
He's like medium out.
Yeah.
Put them both on the bottom. Crater's Claw is going to resolve. Larry's going down to 2. He's facing 11 lethal threats next turn. More or less. I ballparked.
If you replace top 8 with Woods, Larry's not out of the top 8 yet, but he is also close. So Larry's looking to maybe cast a Dig Through Time here, pick up a few cards.
Yeah, he's going to need to have some giant creatures and Stubborn Denials in that dig.
I mean, he doesn't know about all the threats that Jeremy has.
That's true.
And, chief among them being the Crater's Claws that's just going to deliver lethal. The other thing is Jeremy's not under any pressure, so Jeremy doesn't have to go for Crater's Claws this turn. He can do something like Knuckleblade, give it haste attack, and if he draws another land, play an Ashclad Phoenix, and then maybe try to slow play it an extra turn. Not that he even really needs to do all that.
So you're saying the out is not revealing this Ashclef Phoenix again? Well, there's another unbeatable lethal threat.
Yeah.
This Courser has done some serious work.
Yeah, Courser does that. I mean, it's funny because the effect it has on the game is so big, though it's kind of subtle. I mean, obviously, at this point, people know how powerful it is and they know how good it is, but it's just kind of sitting in play. It's not doing anything as flashy as, like, the Savage Knuckleblade, but the Courser probably did more to win this game than the Knuckleblade did.
The Knuckleblade did turn on Ferocious, which was highly relevant. But, yeah, the Courser was definitely a workhorse.
And would you cast a... so, Jeremy's casting Ashcad Phoenix. I kind of like this, actually. Larry's in response lightning striking to finish off the Courser that got blocked by a Goblin token. Then using Dig Through Time, leaving 2 mana up. Jeremy is letting all that happen, though he's got Crater's Claws, because, Sorcery's got to wait. But what he's hoping is that Larry finds a counter for the Ashcad Phoenix.
Well, I believe he's trying to find a counter to be able to deal with Crater's Claw or the Stormbat Dragon on top of the deck. He knows about Savage Knuckleblade, and he knows Stormbreath is coming. He already has Anger the Gods, which I'm sure he's fine trading that for a Phoenix and a Caryatid. So,
if you're Jeremy and Larry lets the Ashcad Phoenix resolve, do you just go for the Crater's Claws here, or would you wait?
Well, I think no matter what he hits off this Dig Through Time, he was going to let it resolve. That's a good question, though.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy doesn't know about the Anger of the Gods, so he might think that if Larry had a counter, he'd counter to Ashcad Phoenix.
What he actually should do, though, is wait, because this Ashcad Phoenix is presenting lethal. If he just kills it, it's still presenting lethal, so Anger of the Gods has to be cast. Then he gets to cast Savage Knuckleblade, which, again, is presenting lethal. Should that get dealt with, he can then still cast a Crater's Claw, which is lethal. And he can actually cast Knuckleblade, give it haste, and still have enough mana up to cast Crater's Claw, so he should definitely not cast Crater's Claw now.
He definitely cast Crater's Claw.
Well, he did, and Larry happened to miss. But I actually think Larry played this game extremely well, especially these last few turns.
Yeah.
His sequencing was spot on.
He did what he could to win this game. It was a very tough game to win, and he ended up in a spot where he couldn't win it. But I think he did play the last couple turns very, very well.
Yeah, quite well.